This episode is presented by Shaw. October sees the under-20s from countries around the world battling it out to see who has the best youth international team. It reminds me of when I was at the start of my career. At that age, there's already lots of pressure to perform, and you just want to get better and better. So keeping calm and fresh is so important. If I could give younger me a tip, I'd say keep Shaw's non-stop protection range of antiperspirants to hand. It has 72-hour non-stop sweat and odour protection that will keep you dry and fresh on and off the pitch. Shop now at Boots. Shaw, it won't let you down.
Nedum, did Zlatan want to batter you?
In one moment in history, yeah, I think he did. But in fairness, I also wanted to bang him out as well. So if you've got time for a story.
Hey, that's why we're here. Come on, let's go.
So there's a bigger thing with this, yeah. And the story finishes with him like getting in my head, but in a way you probably didn't even anticipate. So I'm playing in MLS, and I'm playing at the same time as like Rooney and like Ibrahimovic. And like somebody that loves football, myself, Ibrahimovic being in the same league as me is like a big thing for me. And for lots of other players in the league for different reasons, that's also the case. But one thing about him is like there are two versions of him. You look at his stats and you think, what an amazing player. You listen to his sound bites and you think, this is one of the worst people on planet Earth. Yeah. And that's what I really struggled with sort of like marrying together. And so I get a chance to play against him when he's at LA. And this is me playing LA for the first time. I'd only been in MLS for a few months. We're playing game. First half, my team, Real Salt Lake, we're cool, we're chilling, we're doing well. Galaxy are like so-so. But at half time, it's 0-0. Second half, we start. His team's not doing as well. And there's a point where a long ball comes forward. So I stand behind him so it goes over his head. And my centre-back partner, Justin Glad, I think it was, scoops it up. And then as I turn around to go and support Justin, he gets me around the neck and throws me to the floor. So firstly, like, I'm on the floor, I'm like, what? It's like, what's just happened here?
You're not standing for it, right?
Yeah, but I was confused. Well, look, it builds up. So I'm like on the floor, I was like, what's going on? I gave him a chance to like say, oh, sorry, whatever. He said, shut up, get up.
Ooh.
So it doesn't happen very often. And like, I'm quite a calm person, but like, I've gone now. My head's like left planet Earth. So I stood up. I'm like, who are you talking to? Who are you this? Who are you that? Like, giving it to him, yeah. Giving it to him. My teammates are trying to tell him to calm down. The referee's trying to get me to calm down. And in fairness to him, he's just backing it. It's like, whatever. It's like, whatever, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Which is even worse. I'm like, oh, I'm being sent here. So, like, I'm getting really, really angry, yeah. And the point I mentioned before about, like, how he's, the way he talks and stuff. In that time in MLS is like a really, for me, I hold it dearly because it's very different to everywhere else that I've played in so many different ways. And one thing for sure is that if you come from abroad, you need to adapt to their culture, not try and dictate your own and say it all has to change. Because they're in a different situation. They do things differently. You come there for a reason. Like, you're trying to be part of this, not to make it something else. And he would always speak ill of it. That same season was when he said he's like a Ferrari amongst Fiats, yeah? And I remember being in my training ground when that was up on one of the TV screens in the gym. And one of my teammates was like laughing, oh, it's funny. I said, you've not seen a Fiat, have you? Do you understand what he's saying about you here? But they're like, oh, it's amazing, man. Oh, he's so funny. I'm like, there's nothing funny about this. Because if this happened, say, domestically, if this was in England, someone's talking about you or a team like that, it's war. Oof. It's war. This is why players realistically like don't say anything, because you don't want to incite anything from opposition.
Quickly though, how sad is it, right? We live in a world where people now are so programmed to see that as cool and funny.
Yeah, but it's I think it was more so because for some of those players in MLS, like there are people who've been played around the world, some people from America who played to the highest level, and there's some people who were just in college like 6 months earlier. There's a real spread of talent. Some people in that year when I was there were earning like $70,000 a year. Ibrahimovic was on like $7 to $9 million a year. Yeah, wow. You know what I mean? They've got different perspectives, different viewpoints on like football, everything. But like some people, oh, it's so cool. I get to play with Zlatan. And I'm like, sure, whatever. So yeah, that happens in the second half. So from now on, like it's war for me and him. Yeah, every time he makes a mistake, I'm laughing in his face in this game. Yeah. Every time I make one, he's trying to get into me. And I think the most awkward time I had in my career was the fact I was marking him from corners and he wasn't moving. So the ball goes out wide. I'm standing next to him and the two of us are just like there, just... It's awkward. So awkward.
Eyes forward.
So awkward. Because he's one of them as well. He just wouldn't move. He'd just stand there. This is... please, man, just get this ball away. It's just killing me. But anyway, the game finishes in his favour because he scores the winner. And to tell you what made it worse from my standpoint about him at that time, his team was struggling for the majority of that second half. And all he was doing was standing at a halfway line, shouting back, telling all his teammates how bad they all were. Yeah. I'm like, he stinks. I was like, this guy as a human being stinks. But he scores the winner. And there's a picture which you'll probably see online where like after he scored, I've got my head's like in the air like this, and he's here shouting. But I didn't see it in the moment. I only saw it in the picture after the game. So that happens. The picture travels, and he's got a very active fan base online, so they're tucking me in anyway. But when the game was finished, to tell you another issue about, say, some people in MLS, and this isn't a lot, but for me it's too many. The game finishes, we lose 2-1. We should have had a result, drawn 1, whatever. One of my teammates, he goes up and is asking for a picture with Ibrahimovic after the game, yeah. Didn't find this out till the day after. But we walk into the dressing room, and as you know, like in the dressing room afterwards, like there's so much emotion, stress, and so on. And I'm angry because we've lost the game we should have won. The rest, everyone else gathered in the dressing room, we're frustrated. We're like, the usual type stuff. And then all of a sudden, I'm sitting down, and I just look to my left, and he's walked into the dressing room. This is 5 minutes after the game's ended. Yeah, don't think the manager's even said a word here yet. I'm like, I thought it was a weird feeling to be laying on the floor in LA, Ibrahimovic standing over me. More weird was him, like, why is he in his dressing room? And he says to me, have you calmed down yet?
No.
He said to me, have you calmed down yet? Again, my head left planet Earth. so I stood up, and I'm giving him all sorts, and he's just smiling. And he walked out, but as he was walking out, it was like 2 or 3 of my teammates started backing me and following. That was a big moment for me in that team because they realised what I stood for. I was disappointed only 3 or 4 people backed it because that should have been everyone. I was disappointed someone let him into the dressing room. But like I say, from when he did it, I was like, it's war. I was like, this is war.
Has he fully just come in to wind you up even more? Just to
he
carry it on? He
scored the winner. We've lost 1-0. 5 minutes later, he's come in and have you calmed down yet? I don't know you. I do not know you. But this now leads into the next bit. That was the first time I played in that season. So the second time, I'd been preparing for it. Think of like Rocky flipping views, everything. I'm getting so ready for this game. And like the clip itself was going out around MLS. And interesting, a lot of people in MLS were reaching out to me saying thank you because you'd been taking a mick out of people for the longest time. And they're glad that someone finally stood up to him. And in the coming weeks, other people would do the same. So now it's game time. We're at home. I'm like, right, here we go. This is the most important game of my life. Yeah. Game started. He's really nice. He's really, really nice to me. Every time I did something good, so I'd be like, oh, well played. That's really good. And this, that, and the other. I'm like, oh, my God, I'm not ready for this.
Killing you with kindness.
Murdering me with kindness.
Hold on, right.
Murdering me with kindness.
Is he a genius or is he a bit tapped? What is it?
So what it turned out to be was that in games where it's low energy, he picks a fight with someone to get the best out of himself. And on that day, he chose me. And on this other day, in the second game, he's calm and he's just playing. And I, all of a sudden, I'm lost. I ended up scoring this game. We lost and whatever. It's the most surreal feeling ever walking off the pitch when I thought it was going to go to war. And instead, he's just constantly being nice to me.
Mate, he's a method actor.
Mate, it's baffled. And you see, the way he was in that second half of that game is similar to the way sometimes he talks about himself like in the third person. Yeah. Like, I'm a lion, I'm this, I'm that. Like, that's what he needs to do to get him to get going. But it's so confusing and it doesn't help because, like I say, when you're in MLS, like, say, for example, since Messi's gone to MLS, the fact he takes it seriously means MLS is seen as a serious product for more people. If he would have gone over and sacked it off, disaster. That same time when I was over there, Rooney was there and he's taking it serious.
Double serious.
People get right behind it. And then here's this other guy that was hammering it. So I tested him for that. Then I played against him again, thought he was going to go to war. Nothing. And I couldn't play against him again because next thing he was at United.
Honestly, I'm not sure whether he's a genius or not now because
he's rent-free in my head.
That's what I'm
saying. If I see him, I don't know if he wants to swing on me or if he wants to say it's good to see you again.
I don't know if he's the worst person in the world as well or whether he's just done it just to get the rise out of you and just get the best out of you.
I think what you see over time is he does it for himself. Doesn't care who he does it for. If he needs to find a way to, he'll create a bad guy in his mind to try and make him play better. But he doesn't have any sort of thing afterwards. He can just do it and then move on to the next thing.
Did he come into the change room by himself?
In the first game, yeah.
What are you doing, big un?
Literally, if he listen, there've been some times in my career where there've been potentially some fights or close to in dressing rooms. One of them, to tell you a story, I was at Sunderland, I was on loan for the year, and there was a guy who's playing called John Mensah. Big Ghanaian guy.
Mensah,
Big. Taraf, was he?
Yeah, big John Mensah, this big fella. He's basically I almost feel like I'd have to call him uncle. But we were playing this game anyway towards the end of the season, and I think most people who were there at the time would consider he was crap in this game, and he was fully sending me. I was just on loan, fully sending me. So I came in after the game. And I said a few words, strong words, about how bad he was. because he was also like a bit timid. And then the switch went in his head. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to fight, yeah. And like Zlatan's like 6'4", 6'5", black bone, whatever. Maybe if I fought him, similar to John Mensah, I was immediately looking at what can I hit him with. I was looking at food trays. I was seeing boots. I was seeing anything possible. And so, yeah, that was the same with John Mensah as it was with Ibrahimovic, because in the moment, like, I'm ready to go. But then, like, when I'm looking up to him and telling him how much of a whatever he is, I'm like...
Are you forgetting, though, that you're a brick shithouse?
No, listen,
are you forgetting
all this stuff is true. All this stuff is true, but we need guaranteed results. You know what I mean? Because the last thing you want to do is when you're acting a tough guy is to be falling asleep on the floor.
At home, have you got those, like, what are they? The concave mirrors, the ones that make you look all like...
Yeah, a bit of body dysmorphia.
Yeah, skinny or something.
No, it's not. It's... to be fair, at times when I'm like at my most angry and aggressive, then yeah, I'll go to fight with anything. But there's a point where I have to remember that like I'm also fighting another human being who usually is quite big as well. So need to just make sure you're ready for it. Yeah, but that's my long story.
This episode is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official partner of the Premier League. In the Premier League, everyone pushes their hardest to win. And now it's your turn. With their EPL Fantasy Challenge, Coca-Cola are giving you a chance to win big by beating the best. All you have to do is build a team based on rules set by an icon. And to help you on your way, I've got a tip to help you build your team. Make sure you keep an eye on fixtures. Who are the players up against next? Sometimes it's not about form. Like, there are some players that, for whatever reason, always play well against certain teams. So do your research. To get involved in the EPL Fantasy Challenge, all you've got to do is grab a Coke and scan the code on the pack. Just by playing, you get a chance to win Coke swag or vouchers. But if you beat the icon who set the rules, you could win vintage Coca-Cola jerseys, Premier League tickets, and more. So go ahead and get involved. Grab a Coke, drink it in.
So I want to dive into like USA a little bit more. So with the World Cup being there, Messi effect, I think Beck's kind of really reignited it, didn't he, back in the day, from my point of view anyway. But I always find it interesting chatting to players about how the move came about. So obviously you're at QPR at the time, and why then and why Salt Lake?
Okay. It's a good question. I apologise. I don't give short answers, yeah. So I'd been at QPR from 2012, and I was leaving to go to the US in the summer of 2018. So when I joined QPR in 2012, it was January 2012, first season in the Premier League, I came in halfway through. And I came in more or less because Mark Hughes was manager, and he was my last manager at City, and I played some of my best football under him. I think if he wasn't there, I probably wouldn't have gone, even though I was in the trenches at City for the 6 months beforehand, to where, like, you know, I was more a mannequin than a professional footballer.
You played one game that season.
Played
for
one
City,
game, and it happened to be I played the last game that City had before the move.
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking, Gaffer, you could have picked me a few more times if you wanted, because you used to have this thing where if a game's going, if they're winning and time's running out, they'll bring in like another centre half as like the security. So it used to be security in the last ever game, but before that, I thought, okay, cool, it's good to not be part of this squad, whatever. But yeah, I went to QPR then. That first season we stay up, brilliant, fully settled, everything's great. Then the next few years, chaos. I'd never played in the Championship before, and then a year and a half later, I'm in the Championship. Thankfully, we get promoted 2014. Next year, we're in the Championship again. Disaster. And now we're trapped in mid-table. But I had a contract which initially was running from the one I had in 2012, and they couldn't afford it anymore. So I got to 28, 29, and the deal that they offered me was basically the year that I had left at QPR spread across 3 years, money-wise. And he gave me job security, gave them stability, and I could have gone in that time. But it was a chance as well because he wanted me to be captain. And in that time, like, I'm very fortunate to say, like, a captain de Bereze and stuff. Like, that's a big bit of pride for me, yeah. Did all that. It's finally in my contract. It's time to negotiate a new one. I finished the year as the player of the season. Probably one of my best seasons. And then QPR basically offered me a pay-as-you-play deal. I'm like, that's like a pick your father.
So
You
hold
take
on.
that personally.
Yeah.
But I mean, why wouldn't I? Yeah.
Break down a pay as you play. Is it quite literally you are getting nothing unless you step foot on that pitch?
So the money I was on at QPR to start with in that when I first joined, like, because I'm like, money's never been my driver. Like, I've been paid well, but I'm not really bothered by it. Like, I'm not bothered about the status of it. Like, if it's enough, whatever. So it's probably a couple of million a year at QPR when I first joined, then it was going up. Then the last years, it was probably like $1.5 million or something. Yeah, maybe something like that. Then in the deal that they offered me, it was around, if I remember rightly, it's like $2,500 a week.
Wow.
Subsidised by like an appearance bonus, which was like 4 or 5 times.
So we're talking 150 grand a year.
basic wage.
Yeah,
Basic wage, yeah.
Subsidised by playing on
but
the pitch.
if like appearance bonuses, yeah. And at the time, like for the way the position this club's in, like sorry if I'm speaking out of turn or whatever, but for the way the club was, I'm always wary. Like players think they have strengths till all of a sudden they're on a pay-as-you-play deal, or they need 28 appearances to get a new deal. You sit there at 27 for most of the season, that type of thing. So I was like, this isn't it. I've just had my third kid. Like I've been settled down in Surrey and stuff, and it was great, but like there's no way I'm going to be staying on that. So it's like, well, I need to go. And it's like, fair enough. I'd left, the club had gone through so many changes, and I think as I was leaving, the fans understood who I was finally. Because through all the mess that they'd been through, I was somebody who was just like...
all the way through.
Yeah, I'd
reliable.
seen every bit of it. Like, this is who I am. Like, even at its worst, I'm still giving everything that I have. And it doesn't come with... Like, you'll notice yourself as a goalie, yeah? Whenever you look back at highlights, there are always certain people who are always nearby when a goal's scored, but it's the ones that are trying the hardest. Because say, for example, say you make a save and you're looking for a quick counter, if your right back's on the halfway line trying to start the next attack, like literally, but the crowd love that player though.
Yeah.
But instead, I'm the one flipping chewing grass
If
trying to
only
block
they
a
knew,
shot.
Nedum,
That's what I
honestly,
mean.
if only fans knew.
Oh, mate, don't even get me teed up. Like, say some captains, for example, the ones who are always pointing, getting angry at people on the pitch, but like everyone's like, what's this guy even talking about?
Deflectors, mate.
Oh, deflectors, like flipping stadium captains, all that. I hate it. But yeah, so I'm a free agent in that summer. And initially I thought I was going to be going to Burnley. I think it was under Sean Dyche. And I was a free, somebody who's got all that experience. I thought, this is tapping, I'm going to move back north. But in the end, they went for, I think it was Ben Gibson.
Yeah.
I think they bought him for $6 million.
Oh, they spent a lot of money, didn't they? Yeah.
They did, yeah. And I initially was thinking, like, I'll go up there. I might not be a starter to begin with, but I tend to find my way into a team anyway. Like Ben Mee, Tarkovsky, I think it was, they were doing really well and so on. They're in Europe, they need extra bodies, whatever. That opportunity went down the pan. And I think that same year as well, I was linked with West Ham. And the manager was Sam Allardyce, I believe. And he told my agent at the time I was too old. I was 28.
Wow.
Yeah. So football's changing now in my mind. Like, back in the day, like we'll talk about nostalgia in a bit, but 28 is like, oh, prime. So here's me, like free agent, 28, prime. 15 years ago, I'm in heaven. Options everywhere. Instead, within that, from when the season ended to like July time, start July, next to nothing.
Oh, serious?
Next to nothing. And it's just like I learned a lot about football at that standpoint because this is 2018 now, and people are starting to like really focus on youth and resale value and all that stuff. So I started to see it. You then have this moment where you have to decide: do you take this personally or do you not? I was like, I'm not going to take this personally. So I spent that summer training and just being with my family and stuff. And when pre-season started, I thought, this is my first time being out of contracts in my life since like 9 years old. I thought, I actually don't mind the fact I'm not doing pre-season here. This feels fine. Like I will find work, but I'm in no rush to do it anymore. So I thought, let me try and go on an adventure because I love football, but I love all aspects of it. I watch Italian football, watch Spanish football, German football, whatever. I thought, let me try and see if I can go into Europe or something because my kids at the time were 4, 1, and I had a newborn.
Good age to
good
move
age
about,
to do anything. My wife's super supportive, can go wherever. Had money to go wherever, and it wasn't about making that money anymore because I'd made money at that point before my career. Europe, it's a dud because they're not 18, 19 years of age or whatever. So then Michael Mancian, he's the key to this because he got a move to New England that summer, and Manci's like a couple of years younger than me. And I thought, that's interesting because with all due respect to myself and others, I can't say, well, Rooney's gone to DC, so I should be able to get a move. So I said, oh, Manson's gone. Okay. So I thought maybe I could go to America. So agents at the time start looking. But to be honest, they weren't fully looking. They were half-heartedly looking, which was annoying me a little bit. And then the ones who would speak to me, they would never mention Salt Lake. So, they would just say, it's a bit weird there, you don't want to go there. Because like, you just want to go to New York or on the coast. That's the general feeling. But I wasn't bothered about that. The life that I led is a chilled out life. Family is most important. Playing football, that's it. Whatever, I can entertain myself on Mars, wherever, I don't care. So time passed and another agent ended up speaking to a few clubs. And Salt Lake was one of them. So I went over in the August because they needed to make sure that I was like a sane person because they signed an international player like a year earlier and he was insane apparently. So I went over for 2-3 days to see them. And if that went well, then they were going to sign me. Went over. First thing, so I was raised in Manchester, lived in London, playing lands, mountains everywhere. It's like 30, 35 degrees. I'm like, oh my God. Training grounds, got a view, mountains in the background, stadium view, mountains in the background. People are super nice. I'm like, this is all right. This is all right. And then when I was in the stadium doing a tour before I signed, and this will go down in flipping, this is about perception now, perspective. They offered me a deal where I'd go in September, have a contract till the season finished the next season.
Yeah.
So I'd get like 8 weeks on a lower salary. Then the next season I'd be on a higher
They'd
salary.
make it up by
yeah,
the
but
next
not
year.
a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like just to be like a mid, like top 3/4 whatever. But again, the money's not really the driver. And then if I played 26 games that season, I get another year. So I thought, okay, so 2.5 year deal to go and play in America, which would take me to 32 or something like that. Yeah, 32, 33. So I'm like, okay, I can work with that. So then when I'm in the stadium, agent gets a call. It's from LAFC, who'd just been created that season. And they said they wanted to sign me, but they wanted to sign me for that last 6 weeks, see how it goes. And then they'd potentially offer me another year.
It's too risky.
Way too risky to bring the whole family over for. So I think I became the first player to decide to go to Salt Lake over LA. Over LA. But in my time in America, loved it. It was class to get a chance to... Like, why I loved it is, firstly, like, no one knows... For other people, it's obviously different, but nobody knows who you are. People that play in that league don't really watch the Premier League. Like, they've got their own leagues and stuff which they're interested in. So you get a chance to be someone completely new, playing against people for the first time, playing in stadiums for the first time, being involved in like the travelling around of a country. And for the way they do it as well, you're not there for like, you don't get there the night before, sleep, play the game, go home. You're sometimes there for 2-3 days, and they give you the freedom to go and see the cities. So I got a chance to travel around America, play in those arenas for the first time, try and understand a new type of football. And I remember a game we were playing, I think it was against New England actually, at home, and this guy was running at me, and I didn't know whether he was right or left footed. So I'm now having to defend like in a really pure form. And the last time I did that was when I was a kid making my debut. I was like, this is actually really exciting.
Awesome.
This is really, really exciting. So I made it to Salt Lake. I had a great 2.5 years there. And I knew I was going to retire. Well, I made the decision I was going to retire when that was done, whether I was injured, healthy, whatever. I had a really good season for them in that last year. They wanted me to re-sign, but I was ready to start the next phase of my life. And that for me was like the ultimate like closure. And it was a tough year in 2020 for so many different reasons in the US. But like to walk off the pitch in that final game, getting a standing ovation from everybody who happened to be there because it was a blizzard. And I only played with an orange ball once. It was in my last ever game. And it's in my house in Manchester.
Oh, that's class.
Top. Loved it. Best decision I could have made.
So you've retired after that, right? And I've got one of the questions in my notes is why so young, right? Why did you retire so young? But we've been doing this podcast now for what, like 20 minutes? And you've been sort of burnt by some of the things I've been burnt by in my career, and I think you're clever enough to notice that sort of stuff going on in football clubs with people, how kind of shady it can actually be.
Yeah, 100%.
On the surface, it looks absolutely fantastic, and a lot of people aren't privy to it and won't get to see it. But behind the scenes, football can be a shady, backstabbing shithole sometimes, can't it?
Totally agree. And I think with football, like, very rarely is it about football. There's so much other stuff going on. It's like, it's obscene. And I think you can, because I ended up seeing some of my peers go through the same things after I retired, but they believe they can still dictate their own destiny. In reality, it doesn't matter how good you think you are. It's will you get this opportunity or will you not? And sometimes, like, the opportunities can be super niche. And, you know, there are players who are older, like, you know, Modric had just signed at basically 40 years old for AC Milan. That's great. But that's Luka Modric. Anyone else that's 39 years of age,
no chance.
Nobody's picking you anywhere.
Nope.
And I think if you can, like I'd say, from when I retired, I didn't realise how significant it was to be able to retire on my own terms because most of the people are being retired. Someone's telling you that nobody wants you anymore, or somebody says that you're injured and you can't do this anymore. So to be able to have my own control destiny like that, like in the US for that 2.5 years, I said to my wife, like, we are here for this period of time. Let's enjoy it. To be able to enjoy like the last years of career, I think is a privilege. And like the whole thing and the investment in youth, like we see it more and more now. So this, I was talking about like 2018 to 2020. It's even more apparent now. Like an 18-year-old could go for like 40, 50, 60 million and I've never kicked a ball. Yeah, it's potential based. Yeah. And I think as an older player, you either accept that or you try and fight against it.
So today it's quite a topical day as well because it's transfer window day today.
Mate, there's been signing as we've been coming in there.
What's the biggest one so far?
Right, Harvey Elliott signed for Villa.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I saw that coming.
35 mil.
Wow.
Whilst we're here.
Okay. Right. We're not doing a transfer deadline special here, by the way. However,
we're about to talk about some transfer.
but it's an interesting. So The rhetoric at the minute is that the players are the ones that have all the power, right? The players have all the power and they're contrasting and anything. And I'm thinking, it's the good players, the ones who are the star players.
Yes.
They're the ones that have all the power.
100%.
For the remaining 95% of that team,
Not even close.
you don't have any power, do you?
No.
And this is where it gets muddied for me and skewered, because they make the noise, they make the big news headlines all over the place because it's Isaac this, or it's Gahey kicking off, or it's somebody kicking off.
Even Visser, he's their best player or one of.
So that's that one player, right? The remaining 30 players in that football team do not have anywhere near any power to be able to go and do what Viss has done.
No.
Yet they all get collected in the same term of they're the players, they have the power.
Yeah.
It's not like that.
No, it's not even close. I think like all those players, they're doing the things that's like right for their situation, but it disrupts the perception.
Yeah.
Because, for example, like especially working in media now, and I can sense certain things. Do you know what, let me tell you a story. When I was younger, I used to look at player ratings, and I fell out with one of the reporters of the Manchester Evening News because of it. As I got older, I realised I don't care, because the most important opinion is the manager who's picking the team. But then as I got older again, I realised that these ratings, they're not watching the game. They're only focusing on certain people, and they give these ratings up before the game's even finished.
Yeah.
Like they've worked on a match report from 60 minutes in.
Of course, yeah.
And they're fuming if like something happens.
Oh, they don't want to change it, mate.
No,
They've done the
wanna
work
change.
already.
That's more work.
Yeah.
So like you change it. Like a couple of years ago, I'm getting ready to go for a game or whatever, to watch a game, and someone says I'm really looking forward to watching player X. That means they won't be watching player Y. Everything's built around that. How's this person doing? Like this person, this person had a good game. Well, how did the left back do? They've got no recollection of anything that the person's done.
Because they're watching a different player, different side of the pitch.
Exactly. And for me, there's sort of like different tiers. There's the tier of like player who lead discussion. There's a tier of player who play every week, who people roughly know. And then there's the people who have to sit on the bench every week, who just are forgotten about. And worse still for those players, like every time I say, I don't know, you've probably felt this at some point. The moment it hit me the most was in 2007-8 when Sven was City manager. Rest in peace to Sven. The second game of the season, City won against. You should notice I say City won against United. Giovanni scored a goal. It was 1-0. And as a City fan, I remember buzzing till I was driving home and realised I had nothing to do with it. So now I'm thinking, will I ever get in this team? So I'm thinking, will I have to be transferred? And at that point, who wants to hear my story of my disappointment not playing in this game, which is one of the most historic ones City have had in their Premier League history. So yeah, those players like Vissers, like Isaacs and so on, like they lead discussions. They move the needle in terms of like how a club can operate. But for everybody else, as awkward it is, like when you're cannon fodder.
Yeah, yeah, and
You know
cannon
what I mean?
fodder, you're not getting treated well. You're getting put in that bomb squad room.
It's like, oh, you want to kick up a fuss?
Yes.
Listen, man, just go that way. Let's go have a good time, mate. And you won't get mentioned. Like, prime example now, like, obviously it's not a transfer deadline day thing, but when's the last time you heard any words from Ben Chilwell?
Yeah, true that.
This is Ben Chilwell that, like, 2 seasons ago was given the captaincy at Chelsea.
England international.
Yeah.
Vanished. Like, if you hear everything about this other player that, you know, is maybe a bigger name, that has kicked up fuss and stuff in the past or whatever, Ben Chilwell, like, I think he's a really good player. I really like him. It's like he doesn't exist anymore.
He's happy that every month, right?
Yeah.
A transaction is made.
Yeah, that's
and
where
it
he's
gets
at.
put nicely into his bank account, and he looks every month and goes, "Oh, that's all right." That.
But he's not player power.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's
There's
the
nothing he
point.
can do.
Yeah.
There's nothing he can do. Like, and have you ever been like pushed out before to train with like other people?
No, I haven't. I've been very lucky. I won't lie.
Enjoy that, my friend. Because to tell you, I've got so many stories here. I apologise. We're going to be meandering here.
It's
but
good. I
hopefully
like
makes
it.
sense.
This is good.
So in 2011-12, the season when City won the league, yeah. So I'd been at Sunderland the year before on loan, and I came back to City after speaking to the Mancini before the end of the season, saying I want a chance to like try and get in the team, you know, work hard. I'm not expecting to play those games. And he was like, okay, cool, I'll let you know. Yeah. A week before the season started, basically, I got the call from Director of Football as a voicemail saying, nah, off you pop, yeah. It's like, okay, that's awkward.
A voicemail.
Voicemail, yeah. It's like, okay, that's awkward. And then the day before, it was the Saturday before pre-season was going to start on the Monday. I don't know, somebody else has probably heard this story before, but it's just funny looking back now. I was at Centre Parks with my mates, yeah. Shout out to with my mates, yeah. Mates and partners and all that. Don't be like that. You're better than that. And I was with, one of them was like Fraser Campbell, really good friend of mine, yeah. And I got a text through from basically the club secretary as such, and she said, training, we're supposed to start on a Monday. It says, you need to come in on the following Saturday. I was buzzing. It was like more time off in the summer. Then I went, hold on. So I text Sean Wright Phillips, I think it was. Their pre-season started on Monday. They trained Monday to Friday, flew to America on the Friday, and then I came in on the Saturday. It was me, Craig Bellamy, Wayne Bridge, I think Roque Santa Cruz, Emmanuel Adebayo, and possibly one more. But we were training with what was essentially cities under like 16s and 18s. Yeah. And like, I'll be honest, it cut me because I was a City fan, been there from like day dot from when they were wherever. For some of those others, like, it's part of the process. They've done it. They see the business of football because they're not at home anyway, whereas I was at home. But the point I was trying to get to was I remember early doors within that, Emmanuel, I like Emmanuel. I think he's a cool guy. He was like, listen, it is what it is. If they want to treat me like this, or the manager, I'll just sit here, I'll take my money. No stress, yeah? 4 weeks later, he's basically 2 foot and 18-year-olds trying to get out.
Oh, God.
His head had completely left the room,
God.
mate. And
that lasted longer.
Exactly.
Well done,
But
mate.
it's because at that point then, we were now training at 3:00 in the afternoon. We couldn't see the first team all
It
this.
leaves such a bitter taste in your mouth.
It's so unnecessary.
If you're open and honest and have a real, proper conversation from the get-go, right, guys, yeah, you can try and get your own moves if you want. We will try and get moves for you, but this is where the land lies, right? As long as you're on the same page, and he can explain why you're not part of the
100%.
team,
But
is it-
why
We'll never
you're
get
not
the
a
why,
player.
though.
But this is I always pick at this, and I've never played in professional football, so I look at it from a normal workplace point of view, and I think surely you just pull them in and go X, Y, and Z. But I'm guessing because the stakes are so high with the salary, they just try and make it as uncomfortable for you as possible, or as unhappy.
But it's for me though. Fundamentally, I think here's the issue with it, and some of this comes because like. I'm lucky to have said I've played with Patrick Vieira. It wasn't the best version of him, but when he was at City, like this is one of the Premier League icons, yeah, and such a cool guy, really nice with young people, all this. And he told me a story about how when he was at Inter Milan, I think Mourinho was manager, and Mourinho told him at the start of the season that he's not part of his plans and he's not really going to be playing, but train with the team, and if things go well, maybe you'll get a chance to play. Things went well for him, and he started the season. Yeah, that's Jose Mourinho. That's Patrick Vieira. Yeah, those are two very like Mourinho's. Divides opinion with some people, and for Patrick, like he got told that he's out. I don't understand why clubs have to say to players, "You're not allowed to train with the team anymore."
Yeah, I agree.
Because you can tell them that they're surplus to requirements, but why have you got to push them? Because like who have you replaced them with? Here are 6 random kids from the academy who might be all right.
Yeah.
But how does that affect the quality of the training session?
I think there's a duty of care. There should be a duty of care where I understand that some managers want to go, right, I want a 20-man squad that I will have out on the training pitch with me, because sometimes numbers do matter on the training pitch. Too many bodies, too many players. You're doing 11v11 on a Friday or something like that. You're going to have 2 or 3 left over, and it's horrible. It is what it is, right?
Agree, yeah.
But I still think it's a duty of care to the remaining 5 or 6 players that might be in that bomb squad, where you still have to integrate them, you still have to keep them as part of the squad, and you're open and honest with them.
100%, yeah.
Because the way that it's going at the minute is, it's just. I agree with you. It's got to be the finance. It's got to be the finances that.
But they could afford it though. They gave the deals out.
Of course
They gave the
did.
deals
Of
out.
course.
Yeah.
It's not a surprise deal. And sorry to jump in. I think what I struggle with at times more than anything is the fact that like most narrative around those situations is led by the club. And because it's led by the club, the people that love the club and support the club will always want to listen to that before anything
They'll back
else.
the club as well.
And he'd be like, oh, this player's... Like, I've seen players like nearly brought to tears about this type of thing. But some say, well, they're getting paid this amount, so it's fine. And I'm
Doesn't
like,
matter.
come on,
Not everybody does it for the money, you know.
No,
They
exactly.
don't.
And that money doesn't get paid to you every day, by the way. So
Yeah.
in between those payments, you've got some really dark times. And another part, like United are doing this in the summer with some of their players. The influence that, like, say, players that are struggling at part of a bomb squad are friends with players who are part of the team.
Yep.
That's affecting the team in ways that you don't imagine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Instead of thinking that everybody's just separate, or like even you think that this player deserves to be out there for whatever, like that's missing the point. So as I say, it upsets me.
This is the thing that the fans, some fans don't understand, because you made that point a few weeks ago on one of our shows saying, they're my friends.
Yeah.
When you were with Danny Rose, for example.
Rosie, Hughesy, like Will Hughes,
Yeah,
Danny
Will
Rose.
Hughes.
They had to used to come in at like 4. It was pre-season. They're coming in at 5 o'clock. We've just finished at 5 o'clock, and we're leaving our second double session. They're literally driving in, right, and we're going up to them. The whole team are going up to them. Boys, how are you?
But do people not think that you're not ringing each other and that there isn't a phone
No, they don't
call
care.
going
It's
on?
not. It's too complicated a conversation to think to have. Really,
The reality is they are your friends, and if you put it into, again, the workplace, and your best mate at work suddenly was like, you're on the night shift now,
They're all
and there is no
demoted, treated
no
harshly,
night
yeah.
shift.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. This
You're-
thing doesn't exist. Yeah,
You're going to take umbrage with it. But I guess my question is, are the PFA involved enough? Because this is shady workplace practice.
Well, if they were
It
involved
is.
enough, it would have stopped by now.
Yeah. So what can the PFA do? Like, should there be more involvement? Clearly, yes.
I think.
Oh, there should be, yeah, but it's wow.
Yeah, the PFA is such a subject for me because I know that they do some good work, but there's certain things which I'm just not having at all.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that players can still be put in that position to me is staggering at
Yeah.
this point. And there've been certain things that have happened in the past as well. To tell you two stories, these are two very specific stories and they're relatable to me. PFA does some great work, education, so on, no issues. Like James Milner's agents have been PFA, brilliant, been doing it for 25 years, whatever it is. Two stories to mention. There was one where I'm not going to name. Do I name managers? Nah, we'll see how it goes. So,
He gives the good hooks.
I'll go the one without a manager first. So, if you had to guess, what do you reckon the what's it called, paternity leave is for a professional footballer?
Oh, 2 weeks max, a week.
What do you reckon?
Surely it's 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks. Yeah. So I only found that out when we had this like PFA talk amongst the players in this in like video room when I was at QPR, and the guy said it, and the next thing he says, "Yeah, but don't do that. Just come back after a couple of days so the manager's like happy and can pick you." I was like,
What's the point then?
I was like, what are we doing here? Like, you're like a representative of the players' union, and this is what you're saying.
That is out of control.
I was like, what does he mean by that? Yeah. And then you see how that narrative then flows forward with, like, say, certain people in media says, no, but what do you mean he's had a kid? So what? Like, that's the general narrative.
It is.
In other workplaces,
mate.
you've had a child, congratulations. Please have some time off.
Like 6 months in some of these.
That's
big
what I
ones
mean.
now, mate.
Please
6
have some
months.
time off.
Yeah.
And then the other one, I can't name one of the. This is going to be. Excuse me here if the story doesn't hit the way it's supposed to hit. But we came back from pre-season one time, and the manager said everyone's got to be below 12.5% body fat. Yeah, and there was a player who'd come down from being quite high, like 16, 17s, and he was at 13. And there was
mate, that's a good drop. That's a good effort.
It's a very good effort. And there's another player who was at 10, 10.5, who's now at 13.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, other direction.
Yeah.
The manager said if you're not at 12.5%, you can't train with the team. And don't get me wrong, 12.5%, relatively speaking, for the clubs I was at, is quite high.
Yeah.
But the player who'd come down had to train by himself. The player who'd gone up was training with the team. Yeah,
So
I'm a stickler for double standards.
Mate,
Yeah, upsets me a
all
bit.
over that. That's going to cause a problem.
Yes. So
But this is where the lads need to get together. There,
100%.
This is where the lads should all get together and go. Nah, that's bullshit.
But you're requiring a lot of personalities to do that.
yeah,
though.
true that. Yeah.
And a lot of people, as was the case with, say, like players being pushed to the side, like you worry that if you speak up too much, that's going to be you.
Yeah.
You're going to be in that dressing room at 5 o'clock doing that non-existent night shift. So I spoke a little bit to the manager. The manager was like, no, that's the way it's going to be. So I spoke to the PFA. Yeah. I called them. I remember I was in London. I was in a black cab. Called them and they answered. And the first thing they said was, wow, he's got a duty of care for his body fat to be lower. Is what he said about the player that's not training with the team. Didn't mention, I'd already laid out the plan that one player's training, one's not. This shouldn't be possible. And they were like, yeah, his body fat needs to be lower. And that's when I realised, for those two people I mentioned from the PFA, they're the same age as the managers.
Yeah.
They see the game the same way.
Yes.
But they're talking to a younger base who would see things in a different manner. But they basically just continue in the way that managers think about things as opposed to the way players should be seeing things. And they didn't stick up for, like, the first thing to stick up for the right to be able to have time off. And you'll never have it. Like, if a player decides to be off for 2 weeks now,
Oh wow.
it's kaput.
It's a
like,
problem.
People be outside your house and you're
This is like,
disgraced.
I remember, I'm not expecting you guys to comment on it, but like I don't always lap up what the pundits say. And when people remember when Robbie Keane had the kid and Roy Keane was the manager of Ireland, was asked, "Oh, he's Robbie Keane. Why shouldn't he? He wasn't breastfeeding."
Yeah.
And it was
He
like the
wasn't the
next
one who had
day,
the kid, yeah.
everyone's like, "Oh, legend Roy Keane, he's so funny," and you're like, "He's just had a kid."
The journalists are the problem there because they're laughing at it. They're not asking like what it's within his right to do
Yeah.
it. And the longer
And he's
because
playing for his country as well. It's not.
listen, but we all want to play football, yeah. But one thing like that meant a lot to me was, it's when I said I retired. I said I retired because I was looking forward to start the rest of my life. I didn't say like football's this and football's that. Like the rest of your life is longer than your football career. Some of those moments which you miss with family, you can never get back. Like the joy in saying to people, yes, I can be there for your wedding. Oh, like you've just had a child, I can be there for my children. So that's a huge privilege.
It is, I know, yeah.
But instead, it's like drilled into you, like that doesn't matter. But within your contracts, like employment contracts, this is the time you're allowed off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the only time that really gets stuck to is that 3 weeks, you know, at the end of a season, if you've done something. Everything else is like, nah.
So if a player tomorrow turned around, I don't know, a City player, a Bournemouth player, turned around and said, my little one's been born, I'm going to take 10 days off.
Hammered.
Hammered, not
By
only
every section.
Every angle.
Not externally in the media. I think somebody would be. I think in this day and age, somebody would actually stand up for it. Somebody
I'm not
somewhere.
sure they would.
Somebody brave enough would stand up for it. But internally in that football club, no chance.
Yeah.
It's a big no-no.
Yeah.
The manager, the coaches, the physios, everybody is going, oh, mate, come on, listen.
I-
What do you need to be around for?
Exactly. What I like is, like, and I know there'll be tons of people in this now who always have that idea that if they were playing, then it would be this. If they were playing, it would be that. But I think what's different is that most of the time when people think from that standpoint, they're thinking about playing for the teams that they support, where they do absolutely anything and everything
for it, because they've got an emotional connection.
Exactly, like a real deep one. Do you know what I mean? That's part of their identity as such. And I'd hope that, say, somebody in the media would be able to say to people, a player is entitled to 2 weeks off. Like, you can have a discussion about whether they should or shouldn't have it.
And then not finish it with, but don't do that.
Yeah, but whatever happens. No, don't do that. Don't upset your manager. Just make sure you come back as quick as you can.
That is.
That's unreal. I had my jaws on the floor. I was like, all right, cool. This is good conversation.
How many more times do you think in this podcast Nedum Onuoha is going to say, all right, I got a story for you? I've got a short story.
you know, from when I retired, like one thing, so I do some work for the BBC now. One thing the heads or the people would say to me is like, storytelling is a big part of the job that you do.
It's class.
Yeah,
because you, for example, all the stuff that we would take for granted, because we're in that environment, most people from the outside have never seen
it.
They've never seen it.
Layman's terms as well.
Literally.
Break it down. Explain that.
Exactly,
what does that mean?
It's like fascinating because they've never had an idea. And then all of a sudden when you start saying it, you've seen people be captivated by things which you just would never share otherwise. Like, say, again, when I was at QPR, they were sort of like half sticklers for timing. So there was someone on the barrier who appeared to be like part of the group, but he's jotting the times down and slinging it into the whoever. Exactly. So then you start seeing people who are trying to pay him off and so on.
Yeah.
And then someone, oh, well, who are the people? Well, previously I'm like, well, does it matter? And they're like, yeah, it matters. I'm like, oh, of course it matters, because then you get to learn about the people that we see on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. And you see how like the club runs and all this. It's fascinating, especially because it's their club.
Even to the extent of like, so when I started doing the Cycling GK vlogs, I was showing it like all the people, but I think people were really captivated by the people behind the scenes, weren't they?
Yeah.
Like the kit man,
the Maker Football
like
Club,
the physios, the ones that make the football club. The kit man makes a football club. I'm not joking you. You don't understand the power this guy wields. Like, it's ridiculous. Like the physio room, you go in the physio room, it is the hub. That's where people go. You go there to sit and chat and chill.
Eric Dyer said
Jose Mourinho was in there every day with the boys,
vibes,
with his flip-flops on.
Yeah, it's vibes. Like, physio room is vibes. Like, the amount of times where I'd be in there, like, not needing taping. Or just in there, that's where people chat.
I know.
You know what I mean? It's brilliant. And to be fair as well, the people that make the football club, the stuff that they've seen, the stories that they've heard could end so many people's lives. But instead, they're like steel trapped. Nothing will ever get out. They're just brilliant.
I've got a guest I want to get on the podcast. I can't say who he is. And I said to Ben, if we could get this fella on, it would be the greatest podcast of all time. But it's never happening.
But there are hundreds of them, and we don't want them on either, because that's kind of like that beauty of it, the mystery of it.
And they're beloved. So to mention someone by name, a kitman called Les Chapman at City, icon. Les Chapman was my kitman. He was walking, if he's out on the street now and there just happens to be me, it could be Yaya Toure, could be Ian Brightwell, could be whomever, we're all going to let on to him in the same way because he's been brilliant to us. He's covered every generation and every single person loves him, whether they're from Manchester, whether they're from somewhere in Britain, whether they're from like South America. Everyone sees him, everyone has the memories with him, the kit man, and everyone loves him because of how important he is. Like, when you get there, it's almost like at times, they're not like culture setters, but they're a continuation of the history of the football club.
It's safety, isn't it?
100%.
Do you know, like, honestly, I used to look at the physio room a bit like that, and the kit man room especially. It's your little safe haven in that ego world of footballers where everybody's just a bit sort of what cheese eat, what cars eat. You go in there and it's back to normal, back to real life. It's lovely.
When we went up to Carrington last year, and what year did you leave Old Trafford?
2010.
Right, so God bless her, Kath, the receptionist, who died last year, didn't she? Bless her.
Yeah.
And this was 14 years later. Ben walked through the door and she's like,
Oh, it's just
Straight
up to
amazing.
him, hugs,
Yeah. Them
kisses.
people
Yeah.
behind the scenes
Like,
at football clubs.
100%.
Wow.
And you go straight away. We've walked in that building. I've never been in there before in my life. Neither of the lads. And straight away you go, this is nice.
Yeah.
Culture,
lovely. Yeah, it's
Isn't it?
beautiful.
100%.
Straight away.
I feel like, I don't know if you'd agree, Ben, but there are times where like when you're in it, you don't really appreciate it as much.
Yeah, true.
But I appreciate a lot of those things more now that I've retired, because when you do go back, you see those same faces.
Right, I bet you've got kitmen's numbers in your phone, right?
1000%,
I have
yeah.
got all the kitmen's
Yeah.
that I've played with over the last 10, 15 years, right? And I still will text them to this day. And how are you, mate? You are the kitmen's especially.
Well,
Yeah.
we sponsor all of their football teams.
We
don't
do sponsor all
Like,
their football
all the
teams.
grassroots
Oh, yeah.
teams, and then there's a few favours that come back the other way in there
It's
as well.
true
so-
though, but it's not about it's never a transactional deal. It's
No.
always to do with the fact that I have got a real warmth for this
Yeah.
person, and it's always the same sort of people.
They
Another
make you feel
signing.
welcome from the
Another
get-go,
signing.
yeah.
Who is
Go on.
it?
Sorry, it's a Wrexham. It's Coventry captain Ben Sheath. Is it Sheath?
Oh yeah,
Got to
good
Wrexham.
player.
Big signing,
Wrexam
yeah.
are giving a bit, aren't they? Should we talk about your punditry career then, mate?
Feel free,
in the
yeah.
media. How are you finding it first and foremost?
So when I first retired, it was like pandemic time, so I was doing a lot of stuff at home,
Yeah.
like through Zoom and all that, and it was fine. It was fine. But I actually did some stuff in 2018 before I went to the US. I'd started doing lots of bits of radio and so on. And as I went over, I continued to do little bits from over there. And when I came back, by the way, playing in America, the high point with it, the season finishes before Christmas.
Yeah.
Christmas Day off.
Oh, yeah.
Christmas Day off.
Yeah.
Not having to do fitness or anything. 10. It's a 10 just for that alone. So anyway, we fast forward. I retire. I'm doing some stuff for BBC, and I start working for ESPN. I'm still working for ESPN and BBC now, but the stuff which I'm doing for them, it's like changed a little bit. But I really enjoy it because I think for my generation, for those who played in the Premier League, for example, they have in theory made enough money to where you make decisions about what you want to do, not stuff that you have to do. And that's a huge privilege. And the ESPN stuff pays well. BBC stuff doesn't. BBC stuff is more like, it's nice to work with some good people in there.
Yeah.
And I think the way that they talk about football with the people I'm on with, I really enjoy. And that's the thing for me. If I feel like I'm not enjoying it, I'm lucky enough to say, oh, I could just stop. But with the work that I've done, and I do some work for City as well, and the fact that they welcome me back is a surprise. It felt like a surprise to me in the time, but I get it for the way they look after their former players. I've been to 2 Champions League finals with City. I've done some stuff with BBC around cup finals and so on, and VSPN. Last year, to put it, my highlight since I've retired, I was at the Copa del Rey final last summer between Barcelona and Real Madrid in Seville, sitting just behind the goal.
That's
Mate,
a good one.
peak. That's peak
Yeah, it's a good
football.
one.
Yeah.
Peak football. Could not believe my eyes in terms of what I was seeing. And like, I've been to all the FA Cup finals since I retired. Apart from last year, all the Carabao Cup finals. I've gotten a chance to go to stadiums which I never would have gone to cover, say, the earlier rounds and so on. I do some work in Connecticut. I did the World Cup for ESPN in Doha. And it's class because in my soul, there's somebody that just loves football as a child. I think over time, you have to sort of like protect that and harden it and cover it
Yeah.
to be involved in it.
Yeah.
But now I'm on this side. Like, I can be, like, being at Wembley and seeing, like, Crystal Palace win it. Like, I won't say it to win, but seeing, like, my friend Ibrahimovic win it and, like, what it means to him and that fan base. Every time I go to Wembley, I'm reminded that, like, I only went there once. I was lucky enough to win the playoff final in 2014. But every time I go to Wembley, I'd stay in London, I'll take the tube in, and I walk out, and everyone's always at the top of the stairs taking a picture as they're about to go down there to watch their team play. It's like, yeah, this is class, innit? Like, because as a player, you never see that.
No,
You're just
you
in your
don't
hotel.
understand it, do we?
Nah.
We don't understand it.
No,
It's
we support teams, but we don't support it.
You're
Like,
too
to
far
see
away
this-
from it to see it because you don't get to see that match day experience,
No.
living for the weekend.
No,
you
not
don't.
even
We
close.
don't get to see that. It's
Not
lovely.
close.
I don't think I've ever enjoyed football as much as what I do right now.
1000%, yeah.
The watching it. When I was playing, I never really watched it. I wouldn't.
There's always something, like, from when we were playing, like, I'd watch all the Premier League games, but you'd be watching it with an eye as to know what happens when we play against them.
Yeah, learning stuff.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
that.
Like, I would never appreciate it for what it is or what it was as such. And even like the fan experience now, like, as I say, I'm sitting in the stands surrounded by fans, and obviously not every fan is perfect, but you can see how much certain moments mean to certain fans. And media's allowed me to be there, and also through media, because now I work with people from everywhere. I don't know if you're the same here, but when I played, I was friends with people that I played with, that are at my club, or people that I've played with. Outside of that, nah. As I retired, remember, this is really wild, but working for ESPN, I worked with Frank Leboeuf, yeah. Way older than me, World Cup winner, Chelsea icon, all this. And he mentioned to me in like year one, it's 21, 22, he says, you were part of the football community. And I never knew that was a thing until now I'm on the sideline and I'm shaking hands with people I played with for all those years. People who I never played with, who are playing now, who recognize me from when I played because they watched me when I played, or they see me on TV. And you start to realize like how impressive what you did as a player was, because it like puts you in this space where you now have something in common with all these other people.
It's a really nice way of putting it, that, mate. I mean, that was lovely. That.
Even now, like I've never properly spoken to you, but now we can speak about all the things we could never have spoken about when we were playing at the same time.
Yeah,
we've got so much in common, so many people in common, but it's just not like that conversation to have.
It's not.
So media's allowed me the chance to do that, and best of all, like I love working the ESPN side of things, because they're the ones that have allowed me to see some things which I never thought I'd see. Like I'm watching Bundesliga, I'm watching not Premier League, like cups for them in England. I'm in Spain for them, and what they allow you to do is be yourself.
Yeah, I think that's the bit. You would enjoy. I think that's the bit I enjoy the most about what we do as well.
Yeah,
where I see on telly a lot of lazy commentary, a lot of lazy. Just spouting out generic terms, and I'm just thinking,
it's what they used to though, isn't it?
Can you like break that down for me a little bit more, please? Like, you've played football for 20 years. Like, can you break that down in a little bit more detail than just giving it the same old, same
camera,
old?
though, the other thing is the structure of, like, today we could sit and do a podcast for 45 minutes, or we could sit and do it for 4.5 hours. It's up to us. But like we were saying off camera, if you've got 90 seconds to articulate your point, and you're being told by a producer something in your ear, it's gonna be very different.
That is the key point. And I think sometimes, like, say some of the hate that people have towards certain shows on TV and stuff, like they're directed towards the pundits and so on, but it could really be directed at a producer who's thought up, these are the ideas for the show you want to run with, this is the question they want the host to ask the person, and some of it's like red meat, and it's like basically a TV show as well. Like, for what some people don't realize is there's a running order, so it's closer towards being a West End show than a discussion about something. This is something we have to hit at this point. This is when we like, even like with the earpieces that people have on, maybe you know, maybe you don't. Like, some people have it on open, some people have it on switch. Do you know the difference between the two?
As in, no, go on.
Okay, so if you see someone have an earpiece in, they can either be hearing nothing except the producer whenever they want to speak to them, or you hear everyone that's in the gallery, the producer, the director, the whole shebang, and you hear the whole conversation that they're having, because lo and behold, when a TV program's on, that person's name popping up doesn't pop up by chance. That's somebody saying to someone else to do it. And like, here's the discussion, that prepare this next video, prepare this, do that. And I like to have it open, and lots of other more senior people like to have it open as well, because you can get a feel for where the show's at. And know when you can come in and when you can't. And it might go against who you are as a person, but you're trying to create a show. And basically, like, what I like about it is it's team. Like, you're part of this team trying to create something worthwhile. But say, for example, working on the BBC, at 9:59 and 50 seconds, this has to come off because Country File, whatever's coming on. There's not a second late, and you could be in the middle of like solving world hunger. But that feed is getting cut.
Done.
It's getting cut.
Hurry up.
And I think that's the thing that some people struggle with, because if they have it on switch to where the producer's the only one that talks to them, like, there's a countdown that begins usually about 90 seconds out. And the people who can hear the countdown know that this is the amount of time they've got to make a point. Like, the other day I was on a Champions League show. It was me, James McFadden, Pat Nevin, and Ailey Barber was the host. And she said she needed 45 seconds to exit the show. So she's asked the questions. And I got the last question. Well, in theory, she gave me a question, and there was 1:05 left. So I've given a 20-second answer to the dot. Could I have said more? Yes. Did I want to say more? Yes. But she needs 45 seconds exactly to exit the show. If I didn't have the open on, like there's some people I have who don't, they just start yapping, mate. And you can hear the panic in the background.
Everybody's moving, and that'll do.
Panicking.
Please
panicking.
Now finish.
And basically, you know, if you watch a show, if a host cuts someone off, somebody's had a panic attack in the back.
It's too late, basically, at that point. But you've got to be good enough to hear all that going on and still have your own brain thinking about exactly what you want to say and why you want to say it, and then execute it at the same time.
100%.
Well.
But I think with the execution, it's all relative, because in theory, nobody knows what you were supposed to say. So you can say whatever you want to say. And I think for TV, for TV, sometimes for me, like more people kind of see it, but some of it's underwhelming because you can never really get the point across. And when it's done in the first section, you're not going to mention it again.
There
in
was
the second and third.
Joe Hart had one on, didn't he, on his first show on Match of the Day or something. He's got the producer talking in his ear, and he's explaining what he saw, and the producer must have said something to him, and he just said it. He just said Gary Lineker starts pissing himself.
Oh,
laughing.
Joe just came out with.
He just said it, and Gary Lineker starts pissing himself and went, "You just said what the producer said in your ear, didn't he?" He went, "Did I?" It was brilliant.
There's a skill to that, and obviously working in TV is great and so on, depending on what you're into. But for me personally, I'm not, like, to go back to the original question, I'm not bothered about being on the biggest platforms and stuff. I just want to be able to enjoy the game with people who also enjoy the game.
Yeah, nice.
And the amount of time that you spend with people off air is longer than you'll spend with them on air.
Yeah.
And that's when, like, you can see whether people are watching it because they have to or because they want to.
Nedum, you've been on both ends of the scales with like spending, and so you were at City before the big money came in, so you've witnessed it from that perspective or lived it. But then also at QPR, you were bought in with
big money sign. I think it's £3.75 million.
There you go.
Big money signing.
Yeah.
Usually, these days it's like a month's salary for someone, but worth every penny. Would you rather have a career with me or a month with someone else?
Yeah, there you go.
Think of it that way.
So I think someone else nearly had a career with you at QPR.
Oh, really? When was this?
So this was that season. So it was the
11-12.
11-12 season.
Yeah.
So this was we've got the list of QPR players, by the way, that ended up signing for the club. And how on earth you got relegated the season after? Beyond
Wow. I can explain that.
Fourth from bottom. I'm sure you
that.
can explain
Yeah,
that.
I can
Yeah,
explain
and I'll
that,
give
yeah.
you your chance.
Can we name some of these players?
Name some of these players, mate.
Ben, rattle off some of this, because this even surprised us when we look back at it.
Goalkeepers: Rob Green, Julio Cesar, Aman Traore, Christopher Samba, Clint Hill, what a ledge, Nedum Onuoha, Jose Basingwa, Fabio Tel, Ben Haim, Park Ji-sung, Adel Tarap, Sean Phillips, Jermaine Janus, Andros Townsend, Loic Remy, Bobby Zamora, Jay Bothroyd.
So one or two then. Did you say Jibril Cisse? You said him.
No, I didn't.
He was
Jibril Cisse as well.
Yeah.
He was there, though. Yeah.
So Jibril Cisse, another one. I don't know if you said it, Samba Diakite. They ended up being two significant players for us in the 2011-12 season to stay up. Because, like, listen, man, there's a lot to this, yeah. Okay, so in terms of takeovers, what I discovered from being at QPR versus being at City was when City's second takeover happened, because they were actually taken over by a Thai guy, Thaksin Shinawatra, the year before. Yeah. And that finished being a disaster. Yeah. But City, when they were taken over by this current ownership group, they changed the infrastructure of the football club. That was as big a priority as anything else. They were changing the way that the training ground looked, the way that teams would be travelling, everything. At QPR, the money was invested in players.
Just players.
Yeah. And you looked around, like, the training ground was still a mess.
It was port cabins.
It's port cabins, yeah. The same training ground that Chelsea played in the early 90s is where we were training now in the 2012s. And I don't know if you know this. Do you know they didn't own the training ground?
No.
So Imperial College London owned it, and they would have their sports days on Wednesdays. So we couldn't train on a Wednesday at that training ground.
Yeah,
it's the same as Watford. Watford is at it. Watford had it. It was owned by UCL, College London. So Wednesday, we had to be out by 1 p.m. on Wednesday afternoons.
We had no access to it at all on a Wednesday. Nothing.
It was theirs. We were just renting it off them.
Baffled. Like, I'd come from City, I was baffled. Like, what they had to do at the time as well, players would always sign in the stadium, not the training ground. And I was one of them. I went in, they took us to this nice box in the stadium, signed all that stuff, great. Then turned up day one at training ground. I was like, what is going on here? What has happened
quiet,
there?
didn't you?
Woof, this is a mess. But yeah, the difference realistically is, like, they invested in all those players, but it almost feels like a bit scattergun, doesn't it? And I think at the time, like, when I came in, it was the January of that first season, and some of the players that you mentioned, they came in the next season. So staying up was going to be a big deal, and they brought players in that helped. Well, I was part of that helped stay up that first year. Yeah. And you still had Jamie Mackey's, Clint Hill, Sean Derry's, and so on, who, like, were and still are a massive deal for QPR. And they see the game in a very different way, because for some of them as well, this is their first time playing in the Premier League. And can I just say as well, to go back to something, the power of media and opinion. I was one of those people that was brainwashed to think that finishing 17th in the Premier League was a disappointing season. Yeah. We stayed up that year 17th on the last day of the season, and for maybe 5 or 6 players in that squad, that's the highest they ever finished in the English football pyramid. And someone's trying to tell me that shouldn't be celebrated. That should 100% be celebrated. To get a chance to play in the Premier League but one time is something. To earn the right to do it again, trust me, it's off the scale. But yeah, that night we stayed up, and then from there we thought, progress is linear, isn't it? So you're going to buy these other players now and everything's going to be great. So in came, like, Bosingwas, there was a Stefan Mbia, Esteban Granero who'd come from Real Madrid. Like, And the problem is, most of those guys are really good players. Ulysses is objectively a really good player. Except now, like, he's playing in a team with people who don't necessarily think about football in the same way. Like, Clint's brilliant, Sean's brilliant, Jamie's different. He's different as well, but Jamie's brilliant. Jamie Mackey, but he's also, like, they've come up through the Football League. Think of it this way. When you're down near the bottom, you need people that are all going to pull in the same direction and see the game the same way to give yourself a chance. Doesn't guarantee success, but to give yourself a chance. Because, say, like, Esteban Granero is a really good friend of mine, yeah? If a team's not doing well, he's playing centre midfield. He wants to show personality by getting on the ball and playing. For Clint, it might be a case of let's just bed in, play it long, and defend solidly. That there, on a week-to-week basis, isn't going to work. And I think worse though, as you probably know yourself, when a team's winning, everyone's got everything in common. The moment team's losing, everyone has an idea of what they need to change. And when you've got so many different views and perspectives about that, a manager can never keep the whole group happy in terms of what the plan is, because some see it different ways. So it starts to get toxic. There was a time when maybe somebody that was at the club previously for a long time annoyed somebody who was at the club in a relatively more recent time, who maybe was threatened with mace to their face and a baseball bat because of disagreements about what the best way to go forward is.
Wow.
So yeah, in terms of like identity, like in fact, you know, in that first season, within the first month, we had to train at the stadium because the training ground was snowed under and headbutts were being thrown on all sorts. And I was like, because I left the City team that just won the league. So it's like super stable, elite level, everybody pulling in the same direction, and people just fighting now. I'm like, what has gone on there? But yeah, the signings came in a different world. They'll probably do better, but there's also the world where I realised again, some of those players came because QPR's in West London, and it's a chance for people to play in the Premier League for a team that will do fine, but almost use it as a stepping stone to get to somewhere else. But for some of them, they would never be able to do that because they didn't know the identity of the team, didn't know the identity of some of the players within it. And if you don't have a bunch of people who are all on the same page, inevitably you'll end up being in the situation we were in.
So I nearly signed for QPR that summer. So the first season, the one that you stayed at.
11-12, yeah.
So,
when Neil Warnock won, or Mark Hughes?
Mark Hughes one, yeah. So it was a Mark Hughes one. So I was at Birmingham. We'd just got relegated that season. And they made it very clear, Birmingham did, that if we could find transfers, then go and explore that transfer, because they were struggling. They knew they had to offload like crazy. They got rid of so many players. So QPR was one that was an option for me. So I remember I went down. They put us up in the Ritz for the night. We just got back off holiday, so they put me and my wife in the Ritz. And the next day we went to meet Mark Hughes, Kevin Hitchcock, goalkeeper coach, and there was another one as well. And then in the call, whilst we're talking, they got Tony Fernandez on the phone. He was talking about buying some new airline somewhere. I'm sorry I can't be there, Ben. I'm very, very busy. But anyway, it all sounded all great. And then it was just like, right, cool. We'll get negotiating on contract, whatever. So we left. Agent went to do the job. And I was thinking, it was at the time where they apparently were just chucking money. Like everybody's getting. Apparently Joe Barton's on 80 grand a week and all this kind of stuff.
He'd tell you that, wouldn't he? As well.
So I know. Yeah, and that's what we were hearing. And then the contract offer came through, and it was less than what I was on at Birmingham. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, right?
Yeah, that's a trap.
Yeah,
that stinks. Yeah,
I was like, I don't like the look of this. This ain't great. Like, so anyway, it carried on a little bit, and I was like, no, like, I'm not going to get less than what I was on at Birmingham. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's insane.
So anyway, we kind of rejected it. Whatever. They went for Rob Green in the end, and then very quickly Julio Cesar came in as well. I heard apparently he was on ridiculous wages as well.
He was, 100%.
Ridiculous wages, like over 100 grand a week.
Well, you probably didn't realise you were getting paid as a number two.
Probably.
Just picture that though. Like Julius Cesar comes in, all these other people come in, but then you still got people who were in the Championship 2 years earlier, who obviously aren't on massive
money.
Sean
Derrys, your Mackies, your Clint Hills.
And like they serve a very significant part of the club's history. Yeah. And like the atmosphere, it's like changing, because even for like the fan base, what's the expectation? Like, is it the QPR that, in fact, do you know, when I first went to QPR, they had a documentary out, the 4-year plan, as chaotic as you could imagine. The next 4 years were even worse. Like,
I remember that 4-year plan.
Insane.
It was who was the young lad that got left out of the squad? Really talented player,
Hogan Ephraim.
Hogan Ephraim, yeah, he had a big part in it. I remember watching one of the episodes. It
was bonkers, and everything was changing. And through that time, the team's not winning, so we're getting dogs abuse from the fan base, and probably rightly so. Some of the new players aren't understanding what's going on. And like in the January of the 12-13 season, signed Chris Samba, he was on £100,000 a week apparently. Signing from Russia, from Angie Makala.
Yeah, remember, he got crazy money out there, didn't he?
And he probably had the worst 6 months of his career, to the point where he was like burning his boots and stuff after games. He's like, I can't do this. And then he got sold to that same team in the summer. Mate,
how does that work?
Don't even get me started, mate. Absolutely like bonkers.
Sounds
to say the
fishy,
least.
that does.
Just a little bit. But yeah, there was quite a few players came in, and by the end, when I was leaving, I left. I played 6.5 years for QPR. I've played basically nearly half my career for QPR through staying up, going down, going up, going down, and then 3 years just being in mid-table in the Championship.
Yeah.
It's bonkers. And because it's relevant just for this season, another story for you. This one exposes how bad opinions you can have about football sometimes. Yeah. So in the 2014 season, 13-14. We're down as QPR, and we spent way too much money that season. Harry Redknapp was manager, signing whoever he wanted, whenever he wanted, people on loan. I think we had 8 or 9 players on loan. You could only have 5 in a matchday squad. It was like ridiculous. We had like Jermaine Genius and people like playing. Nico Cranchow was there. The team was obscene.
Yeah.
But we didn't go up automatically because that was Leicester and Burnley. Yeah. And it was Leicester that went on like a 22-23 game unbeaten run or whatever. And I remember we'd like win a game. I checked my phone. Oh, Leicester have won again. Did that for like 6 months. It was doom-headed. But anyway, we ended up playing in the playoffs. We were very lucky. We were very lucky because we were crap in the final. We beat Derby. Yeah. Next season, we're struggling. It gets to Christmas time, and everyone, I'll probably say now, if you're bottom at Christmas, it usually means you're down. Yeah. That's what we hear. It's never backed up with like true insight as to why that is, but usually down. Someone's having a discussion with me around Christmas time. Leicester City are bottom. Yeah, this is 2014 Christmas, and we're like 4 or 5 points ahead of them. Someone asked me, who's going down? I said, Leicester. Don't even worry about them. They're finished. Yeah, verbatim, they're finished. I said it with spice. I was like, yeah, they're finished. Don't even worry about them. End of the season, I think we're bottom. We're relegated, and they're like 14th, 15th. Yeah. The next season, Leicester winning the Premier League title. And we're sitting in mid-table in the Championship, and everyone's spending the year telling me how good this Leicester City story is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's mint, yeah. Then it's good to see them doing really well, yeah. In the trenches, mate.
They won their last 6 games of the season, they did, to stay up.
Can you just believe that?
How can you do that? How can you win a league title, though?
Mate, it's ridiculous.
It's honestly, like, I'm exposing myself as a hater, but it's because this was competition at the time. We spent a year trying to go up against them. We spent a year trying to go down against them. And I spent the next year watching them from a different league, watching them win the league.
Literally the opposite, yeah.
Insanity.
Will that ever happen again?
Never. Not in that.
But why though?
It can't.
Why?
It can't.
Why?
It's just too. I think it's too. There's too many.
There's
too many scouts about it. There's too many people about it. There's too much knowledge.
Could you ever see a year where there's
teams with that down?
Teams
not from that. There will never be a Leicester from bottom of the league at Christmas.
No. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is Bournemouth winning the league. Or
yeah, they could.
You reckon that
Brighton could win the league?
Yeah, Brighton could.
They could do that. I guarantee you that would happen in the
is alternate reality.
Yeah.
Whatever, yeah.
But I think my opinion on football is a Premier League as well. I just think that the quality standard is just inching up every single year, better, to the point where in 20 years' time we're going to have a top 14 that are unreal, and 14 teams could win the Premier League because the standard is so high.
That's not bad take.
Across the board.
It's not bad take.
It's just getting better.
Let me ask you, you watch a lot of European football, right?
Mm.
Is the Premier League head and shoulders?
I think as a collective, probably yes. I think there are enough teams in other leagues who can cause as many problems as you can imagine against like some of these other Prem teams and so on. But yeah, I think as a collective, I would have to agree with that, yeah. I think, say for example, like in the grand scheme of things, what are like Crystal Palace to the Premier League? They're not like a top 7 team as we perceive them right now, and they haven't been for a long time. But they could still manage to beat any of those teams up near the top of the league. And
it never used to be like that,
no,
though.
Never used to be.
It was guaranteed. You knew what was going. You could almost do your pools, and you knew what was going to go.
I don't think you see that in other leagues. I think when you get down towards teams who are perceived to be mid-table, I don't think they cause
so
as
if
much.
You put Crystal Palace in what do they call it now? Not La Liga, do they? Is it La Liga?
Yeah, still La Liga.
Yeah, yes. So if you put Crystal Palace in La Liga now, we're thinking they'd finish 3rd or 4th.
No, it's still tough. You've still got 4 or 5 really good ones.
I think if their style of football is allowed to be played over there, then they'll cause a stir. Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's a good question. Though.
Yeah, it's interesting that, isn't it?
Yeah,
I don't know how that would go.
Basically, Crystal Palace in Europe this season. Have you got any worries about them in the Conference League?
No.
Well, why? they've not done it before.
Yeah,
but it's
true
like,
that.
they'll be fine. Yeah,
Yeah, so a Premier League team.
exactly.
It's
Yeah,
Premier League.
like Europa League. Who's in there? Who are you worried about? Well, no, they'll be fine. But why is that? You're playing against some of the best teams, especially. And I think this is a big conversation actually about nostalgia, because, for example, when we look at the Champions League draws, we're talking about some teams being good because we've heard them in the past be good. Like, we've got no context about whether they've been good. But like, Dortmund, it's a tough game now.
Historically,
yeah.
Monaco. Like Falcao's there with Mbappe alongside him or something.
That's it.
Exactly. Whereas I think, like I say, in reality, the Premier League teams, and I think it's understandable because realistically, like, we'll have to talk about football in the real way, in the fact that these players that play in the Premier League earn a lot of money, and there's a connection between how much money like gets spent on these players and the quality that they have. And other leagues don't have that same spending power, especially lower down in the league. Because like, if you are a really good player in Europe right now, your markets are probably going to be the Premier League, Bayern.
Yeah, that's it.
Maybe team in La Liga, possibly like PSG. But in reality, there's nothing else, is there?
Right, final bit of podcast talk for the day, because this has been an incredible episode. This might be one of the most scatteriest.
Oh, it's all over the
best.
gap. I
It's
apologise.
incredible, though.
It's the best.
These are incredible.
There's
Oh,
about-
listen,
I don't think
do you
I've
know why I
touched
say
on-
that, right? My wife showed me a Joe Rogan episode a few weeks ago, and I was listening to it, and we were driving somewhere. It was a long old drive, and I listened to him talk for about 2.5 hours. Newquay we were going.
You listened to a podcast for
2.5 hours, right? And it was just him and his mate, and they were waffling. He must not have had any notes whatsoever. They just went off.
just went for it.
And I went,
because he's absolutely baked, mate.
but do you know what? I said, how much of a good podcast host must you be if you can just sit down with a mate and do a 2.5 hour episode and keep me, the hardest person in the world, to keep sit still or entertained for like 2.5
Mate,
hours? I literally sat there and I was going, this is brilliant.
Yeah,
He's so
yeah.
Tell you what
likable.
makes
He's
it
so
so
knowledgeable.
good, though,
He's so
Fozzie,
clever.
is that he probably isn't aware that it's a podcast. He is absolutely.
Mate, he's just having a... Mate,
and
he's
they're
chatting
just
away.
chatting.
He's naturally inquisitive as well.
Yeah,
and he's,
so
and he's
inquisitive,
latching on,
mate.
like, I don't necessarily listen to him, but he's latching on to something that's interesting.
Yeah.
I think sometimes with podcasts or some of these other shows, they've got 10 questions and they're going to try and hit those 10 questions. But then, like, being lucky enough to do media, there have been times when I've interviewed players and something that they'll say might seem really superficial, but there's always something within it.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Which is like, oh, well, what does that mean?
Yeah,
and
go
that
on
takes
then.
the conversation
Go on
to
then,
like
go on then,
that's
yeah.
a far better place, you know
I
what I mean?
totally
Because then you're
agree,
actually getting
mate.
something for
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I'd like to think our viewers think that we let it go.
Do you know why? Do you know why it's better? And that's because a lived experience is easy to talk about. Something that you've lived with.
Yeah.
If you're doing a generic top line statement about that, but if you've lived it, that is so easy to talk about because you can remember the emotions of it. You can imagine. You can remember how you felt that
it's
moment.
also when it unlocks different memories. So when you've done, I don't know, 200 Fozcasts, however many we've done, you've told all your stories, right?
Yeah.
There's a few stories that you've told. But then on the way down here today, we're chatting. And as you do, as mates, we're chatting. Oh, let's talk to Nedum about this, that. And you went, QPR. And I went, I've never heard that from you before because it's just conversational. And if you're too structured, then it doesn't happen, does it?
Okay, final talk then, VAR. We're going to go VAR talk and then we're done for the day. Thank you, Nedum. You've been world class. You really,
I hope
really
you're
have.
not looking for a quick exit here with
No.
VAR, 'cause
This
it's not
end,
gonna
I
be
don't
right.
expect a quick exit. The answer is the answer. It takes as long as it needs.
As long as it takes 14 minutes or less.
Yeah,
the
got that,
weekend we've had, especially for me, I
Bad
don't know your
weekend,
opinion on it, but Joe Cole said something where he said, "Is the juice worth the squeeze?" And what he means is what they're trying to implement with VAR actually worth it, or is it detracting from the spectacle, the quality that's on pitch? Is it detracting?
Okay, so my view on this is like quite ranging. I can understand people's position if they like explain it properly, because I understand what he's saying, and some of the grievances that I hear about it is like it takes too long. You know what I mean? They make mistakes. They're looking back at stuff and trying to get rid of goals and so on. Yeah, and I think an argument like that, you should in theory be able to quantify it, and I think the PGMOL are trying to do that in the fact that like they're trying to make decisions quicker. Because even now, compared to, say, a couple of years ago, things are quicker, even though it feels slow. And we're used to a fast-paced game of football, yeah? But then we also sort of turn a blind eye to when there are lulls within games as well. Like, we talk about football like there's something happening every second of every minute of everything. This is like the best thing ever, oh my God. It finishes 1-0. But how good was it? You know what I mean? And I think all those grievances are fair, but I think it's more of an ode to what people were used to when they first started playing and what they used to like casually watch when they first started. And it is different now, but that's the question initially, like VAR, who's it for? And in theory, well, for me, it's for the referees to be able to say that the work that they do produces a fairer outcome more often than not. And for the way that they judge themselves, because they always have to be reviewed, as we've known for decades. I think a couple of years ago I saw that in terms of the big decisions that matter the most, their percentage has gone up from like 88 to like 93, 94. Yeah. So that's the starting point for them. The fact that we're making more correct decisions.
Yeah.
And this is the problem now. And I knew when the world had flipping lost its mind was in I think it was in the Euros. Maybe it was the last Euros. I think there was Gary Neville, there was Roy Keane, and there was a referee, a former referee. And they were talking about, it was the last World Cup actually, and they were talking about a decision. And the referee explained why it was a penalty. And Gary Neville and this other person said, well, you're wrong. And I was like, we've lost it here.
Yeah.
Because for whatever we do as people, we watch the game, play the game, we haven't been raised on refereeing the game. Yeah. That's why even to this point in the last few years, we see decisions which make no sense to us because they're laws which we knew nothing about.
Yeah.
And I don't think we as a fan base realistically are educated enough about the game to see how they would do things. So the decisions which are being made and certain decisions within that might become subjective amongst referees to where some might give it, some might not. But they're trying to create a fairer outcome. And if it's to be gotten rid of, you need them to be the ones that don't like it. And as every year passes, Howard Webb and all these other people in the PGMOL, they're trying to refine it, give a better experience. Like that's why a ref is now trying to say something to the crowd. And I was a bit skeptical about this because I thought the crowd realistically, it's not about, for me, not about necessarily knowing what the decision is because you're going to disagree with it anyway. But they're like, well, maybe we'll tell them what it is so they feel a part of the process. Listen, man, if fundamentally you disagree with a decision, you'll always be up against it. So with the video assistant referee, they look back at things and they're coming in less now than they were doing before because every year is to refine. And I think a lot of the conversations led by the people who were on the call for the game who don't necessarily know what's going on. And I think if they knew what was going on more often than not, and when I say not knowing what's going on, like they don't understand the processes as such. They don't understand what the referees are looking for, how they're doing things. And I think in my mind, the world would be in a better place football-wise if they can say what it is that's going on, why a decision's being given, but say that they don't like it. But instead, they say they don't like it and that it's wrong. And that misses the point for me. So from a video assistant referee standpoint, I get it why some people don't like it. But some of this is a sense of nostalgia because across the years, so many rules and things, laws have changed. And depending on when you were first consuming football, dictates whether you like this or like that. Some people liked it when, like they'll say, oh, but did you watch the Premier League in the 90s with like Vieiras and Keanes and all this stuff? Yeah, but did you also watch like Charlton versus whomever at the same time on like this messy pitch at the stadium? Well, no, they didn't, and they don't want to watch that. Some of the refereeing, football's better back when. Let me show you this video of a player being assaulted with a tackle, and the ref said, no, it's fine. And even bits of language like, say for the way we see it, like all three of us, if someone gets an early yellow card, we'll be like, oh, come on, it's early. What does that mean? So you could just assault someone to start the game. That's a no to an even more different time.
Moment where it's fine still.
Yeah,
like,
but why should it be fine? Because in theory, the stuff that they're doing to the game of football is supposed to design to make it fairer in terms of the outcomes. And they don't always necessarily feel like that's the case. But if you speak to the PGMOL, who speak to pundits and broadcasters every month to talk about key decisions in a month, and the best bit about that is at the end of the call, you're allowed to ask them any question.
Have you been on them calls?
I've been on the
tell
calls,
us about this call then.
So it's a call that goes out to all the broadcasters that have the rights essentially to show Premier League football, whether it's highlights or live.
So we're talking TNT, we're talking
TNT,
Sky,
BBC, Sky,
BBC,
whatever. It could be Radio, TalkSport, whatever it is. And the link will get sent out and you can tune in at this time and they'll run through the key decisions. Like, for example, in this next month now, they'll be talking about, say, that Chelsea decision. They'll be talking about other decisions. And again, there's a subconscious bias. If you don't like something, you don't realise when it works well. Because if it's the decision that's given, everyone's like, oh, they're taking goals away. Well, how about if an assistant referee puts their flag up, traditionally that means the move has to stop. But now they put the flag up later. So now you only perceive it, say, well, you put your flag up too late. But how about the goals which are then scored and then the flag goes up? If this was back in the day, the flag would have just gone up and the goal would never have been scored. Yeah. So perception can dictate like that. But you get on this call and it's usually got like, if you notice, all main commentators know what's going on.
Yeah.
not all co-coms former players know what's going on.
Do they not tune into the call?
Some people do. A lot of them don't. And I think the ones who have the biggest platforms tend not to, whether they're busy or whatever. They'll do the early season briefing that everyone has to go through. But as the season progresses, they just hold things against it. Like there was one guy in particular. I won't mention him by name because I don't necessarily want to fully throw him under the bus. But I had this debate with him because, again, like I'm agnostic to some of this. I just like that I can speak to referees and see where they're coming from with something, which as a player I had no interest in doing because I used to hate refs. But now I see how tough their job is. And I said to him, "Oh, you should be on this." I said, "Do you know about this call and so on?" He says, "Yeah, but why would I ever go on that? I don't like referees. This is somebody that's doing commentary for games on a weekend.
Who can influence?
Who can literally influence it?
people's
Yeah."
opinion?
He said, "Oh, this is crap. That's crap. This is no good. Like that's never been." When someone says that's never been yellow, explain to me why.
Yeah.
Because if you understand the laws of the game, you can say, "Oh, I see why that's yellow," but it's a shame that that's where we're at with football.
They just don't agree with
Fundamentally,
the law.
They fundamentally that is the crux of the
point.
argument.
Yeah.
A lot of people who talk about football fundamentally disagree with changes that happen within football in terms of how it's being refereed. Yeah. But a referee, when they go to a monitor, for example, gets a chance to referee according to the standards that they have in that moment. And again, to put it into perspective, a referee, like I know some people have tuned out because I'm talking about referees, but a referee doesn't see everything. And that's why the video assistant referee is there to help the refereeing team to do with stuff that they haven't seen, because most of the time they have to speculate and say, is this or is this that?
Right, back to my original question. Do you think the juice is worth the squeeze? If it's 5% improvement, yeah, is that 5% better
What's the
improvement?
issue? What's the issue? What's your biggest issue against it?
My biggest issue against it is that it saps the life out of the game. If you're sat as a spectator,
okay.
for the 70,000 in the stadium, I feel that it's too much about. And you said in what you said a minute ago about the referees, you need to get them to not like it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it should be about the referees.
But it has to be. That's the good officiating of a game.
But I also agree. The best games are the ones where you never really see the referee.
That's
That's an old way of saying it.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And there's new rules which need picking, and you're going to hear the whistle a lot more. But I just think there's got to be a better way of doing it where I'm not sat around for 8 minutes for a Bruno Fernandes penalty.
Okay, so the Bruno Fernandes penalty that takes 8 minutes, is that the exception? Is that the norm?
It's not that. It's neither. It's not the exception or the norm. But there's
8
been
minutes
plenty
is closer
of
to
them.
the exception.
Eight is the exception. But there's plenty of 7, 6s and 5s as well.
You say that, but could you quantify that? Because when you think of it this way, there are 10 games played in the Premier League every weekend.
Yep.
But we talk about probably 2 or 3 incidents maximum.
Only normally because they're the big games though.
That's the point. So the big games are skewing the perception of the overall thing.
I can only go off the games I watched at the weekend then, for example, right?
Fair,
So I watched the early Chelsea game.
Yeah.
I picked up a bit of the highlights of the Man United one, and then there was another one, the Leeds-Newcastle one, on where even the point where they had the communication error with the referees, right? So they had a communication error with the referees, so they had to stop the game for 4 or 5 minutes. They went to go and sort it out, and I'm just thinking, even this, it's like the referees are still have to be a big old integral part of it. You can go back to a place where they could carry on doing the game and just try and get it sorted along the way.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but then it's like competitive, like fairness as such, as is the case, like why a kit's got to be a certain colour, where the badge got to be a certain size. There's certain things which are just part of the process. I understand what you're saying.
So like if one thing I'd like to do is not chuck the referees under the bus and like.
You sure? Sounds like you're about to say
and get them in the stocks
front and back. Yeah.
People throwing through to them and whatnot. But if a referee after post game, right, was interviewed subjectively, not by a reporter, so it could be a PGMOL person, it could be another referee. I don't know. But the point I'm making is, if they were asked and said, right, why was that decision made? And they said, well, the letter of the law says X, Y, and Z. So the letter of the law is you go by it. So you either follow the law or you don't. So at this point, they could turn around and say, well, actually, the law says X, Y, and Z. So it's a foul,
yeah,
and then the Nevilles or whoever chirp up and go. Well, you might not like it, but you either want us to officiate the games to the law, or you don't.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then it's inconsistent.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing you hear is, we just want consistency.
Yeah, they don't. They want favourable decisions realistically for their team in times where, like, because as well, the point you've made, that it does exist, because that's that PGMOL Match Centre on Twitter. That actually is a thing.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Because, like, what I'm trying to do here is not make a case for it or against it, but try and explain further what is actually going on. Because that thing that you didn't instantly think about
Yes.
is a thing which
It
does
is
exist.
there.
And like they're trying to give, that's in response to people saying what you said.
Yeah.
And the bit about saying the stadium, like this is a really, really like tough point here, yeah. But I'm gonna stand on this like 100%. If you want atmosphere, going in the stadium is the best place to be. If you want to know what's happening in the game, being in the stadium is the worst place to be, because you will not see multiple replays of anything. You're not stopping your TV, rewinding it. Like you've been in the dark by deciding to go to the stadium anyway. Add into that some stadium around the country, like say like Old Trafford or Anfield, there's no screen. So like something's happened. If you looked at your phone, you missed it. You've missed it. So some people who use the argument of like, you know, like all of a sudden I don't know what's going on. You probably never did.
But you
know what I mean? Like it's just to put it in perspective.
Did you play with VAR?
I did, yeah.
Did you prefer it with or without?
So as a defender, and I think this would probably be the case for you, or potentially be the case for you as a goalkeeper, some of the goals that you concede, you know when there's something fishy that you want to be seen to.
Yeah.
And those types of things would frustrate because a referee would never be keen to listen to your perspective, and you can't present it, you can't show it.
Yeah.
But I think it gets you in a position, whereas this is purely from the conceding standpoint, not the more emotive scoring standpoint.
Yeah.
You make sure that the goals that you concede, more often than not, are valid. Like, and if they're not valid, you can question it, you can push into it. You know what I mean? Like, it might pop up on the screen afterwards. You can say, how about this, how about that? Whereas now, like, think how many times, for example, as a defender, you know someone's offside. Assistant referees miss offsides all the time. Well, now here's a chance where if they're offside, they're offside. And someone might say, oh, it's by a kneecap. And to be fair, I'm in a world where I'm not really bothered about someone's kneecap being offside. But there are other ones which are good spots which people miss. Every time an assistant referee misses something and there's a goal and then the goal gets overturned, that's it being used to its full potential.
Yeah.
Every time a goal is disallowed and then it gets overturned, that's being used to its full potential. But the things that we think about the most are the decisions where we feel like overall it's wrong. The times where, like, say it affects, say, for example, did Chelsea put in a complaint on the weekend about how long it took for that goal to be overturned by Fulham? No, they're happy with it. They're happy to wait then because there's something at the end of it for them. Whereas for Fulham, it's like frustration. Obviously, it's a goal. And I think it's more so, if anything, a reminder of how difficult a job it is for a referee and a refereeing team to do something which is in the best interest of everyone that still leads to an outcome which most people won't like.
Do you know why as well, though? Because I think the rules are written in such a vague enough manner that it's up to interpretation from that referee at that moment in time.
Exactly.
So the Chelsea goal, for example, that we're talking about here, the one that we're alluding to, the Fulham goal, young Josh King, a brilliant moment, and take the emotion out of it for a second.
That's what makes it worse, because it's him. It's that
take
emotion.
Take the emotion out of it. I've got no skin in the game, but it's a young lad who scored the goal. Chelsea, Fulham's, take the emotion out of it, right? The lettering of the law is that goal was disallowed because that player did a careless action, a careless action with his foot, which was basically alluding to the fact that he stood on top of Trevor Chalobah's foot, right? A careless action with his foot, right? Then that wording alone can mean a million things.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Because if the goal's given, right,
they can justify it.
Are Chelsea turning around and going, careless action?
But that's what I'm saying.
When it's like that, I think they'll just they'll find a case where it's happened in the past and say there's no consistency because that should be given.
And there is.
You know what I mean? Now you're just playing a system.
We said it before. Football's
where
quick.
He got a penalty given against him because he stood on somebody's foot and somebody actually gave him the penalty, right? There was something that happened in the end of the Liverpool-Arsenal game the other day where Szoboszlai, the ball got thrown, it landed on Szoboszlai, and they can use that instance to say it's hit his arm, by the letter of the law it's a handball, but you take everything into account, right? And the way that they brushed over it quickly was that there's bodies in front of him and he can't see it's coming. However, the ball's travelled an awful long way. So what I'm saying is that my problem with it is that it can be interpreted to whatever somebody wants it to be interpreted. And that is what worries me, because if somebody has an agenda, they can choose that agenda to go with whatever decision suits them.
So that doesn't concern me as much just because that's the way football's always been. And I think each referee is essentially different. There's some decisions which are subjective. Some referees allow, like you see it with, like, say, Premier League versus like Championship and stuff. Sometimes the tackles that go in the Championship are fine, but that same referee...
It's like early on in the game, we said earlier on, some referees will let a couple of challenges go in the game.
So, interesting one as well is what I think would help as well. So Mike Dean was he was there as like...
Who a lot of people don't like, by the way.
So he was...
Because he talks. Again, like, people hate referees. I think that's the baseline.
I take all the emotion out of it, I do. I take any emotion. It doesn't... But again, I just think that for him to be party to the commentary, party to what the other referees might have said, I think if they're going to use him for that, it's almost like he should be watching the game on mute with no other communications, no influence from any other external factors, and they come to him and they say, Mike, what do you think of that decision?
Oh, they're stringing him up though. Are they?
Why are they stringing him up? Because if it's a letter of the law, and it is what it is, that's the whole point of it.
I see what you're saying.
Because he should be able to read out the same reason why or why not as what any of the other referees should be able to do at the same time as well.
I agree.
That would be a really good way of doing it, but he wasn't. He was party to it. He was party to Gary Neville saying that was disallowed because the ball.
Is he going to go against the grain with Gary Neville, and then is it going to be Sky Sports News, Dean and Neville clash? And
I'm not saying he went against the grain. I'm not saying he maybe fully agreed.
Yeah,
with
but what I'm saying is though, does he want what's coming?
So that's what I'm saying. If you put him in a room with no parties to anything, complete no communication, then he should be able to see it for what a referee sees.
I think I get that point, and I'm with that. But firstly, I don't think most people will like what he says anyway, especially if it goes against how they feel about football.
It's emotions,
you know what I mean? Like football for us is so emotional, especially because like we play it or we witness it. But their version of football is according to the laws of the game. Yeah. Like they're not running around trying to get in position to like have a 1-2 or to like have a nice moment. There's no pirouettes. It's like I need to find myself in the best angle to see whether somebody touches with their arm or not. Like for them, it's according to their laws. Yeah. We don't think about the game solely about the laws. We don't think about it in those particular moments. And we get so many times where we learn something or in fact, I think probably the biggest issue with VAR, in my opinion, is the fact that we now at times have to look at the game through the eyes of a referee as opposed to just through our own.
Yeah.
And that makes some of us feel miserable because we feel like it takes the joy away. But some of the arguing points, like I've heard so many across the years, and there's some which I don't tell someone that they're wrong, but I just offer a different perspective. Because, for example, someone will say, well, you can't really celebrate now. And I say, well, really, celebrate twice. You see the ball go into the net, you go nuts. You have a pause. They check it.
I never thought of that before.
And then you do it again.
Don't give me this. I don't like optimism.
And it's like, sorry, it's not even optimism, but the point which I think is like a bigger one.
Yeah.
Is that don't listen to every word of a pundit when they're talking about football on a weekend, because a lot of it is very much their opinion and not the facts.
And still feelings, because when you get
feelings.
100%
like,
feelings.
yes, they're pundits and they should know more than the average Joe should.
Yeah.
Right. But then Neville and the Carragher, they're supporting their teams as well. And actually, I'm guilty of it sometimes. But sometimes the stock ants are going to be, if they don't agree with the law, right, it'll be game's gone.
Yeah.
Right?
Mate,
game's gone.
That game's gone. If you hear game's gone, that's a red flag. Yeah.
Why? What?
Exactly.
I've done it. I do it.
Yeah. It's a red flag.
You know what? It's so funny you say it, because I actually put a tweet out on Saturday.
Game's gone.
Fulham, I put game's gone, right? And do you know what it was? It was pure emotion taking over.
Of course.
It's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
It was pure emotion taking over.
100%. And we all remember when we first started falling in love with the game of football, and football's very different then. And it was different for people who were like 10 years older, 20 years older, 30 years older. Let's think about football sometimes through the eyes of people who are playing it today, who are coming through academies now, and this is the norm for them. Yeah. They're going to be the ones who will dictate how football feels and how football is. Us talking now is great. We can talk about our time.
But
our time had it's completely irrelevant. Our time had flaws as well.
I know.
But football's changing, life's changing. And if we stand here and say it needs to go back to how it was, like those ones, like I don't know if you're the same. Somebody said, just get rid of it. Just get rid of it. Within a week of getting rid of it, I can guarantee you there'll be some of the worst decisions you've ever seen.
There'll be a playoff final, clearly offside, 100 million decisions.
Heads will be rolling massively.
How old are your kids?
11, 8 and 7.
Do they like football?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. I mean, when we're talking about nostalgia, right? Yeah. I remember, honestly, genuinely, I remember going to Wolves when I was a kid with my brother and my family and that. And when they scored, I can't explain a feeling like it, right? And now I go with my lad, and I don't know if you're the same, but like when you've been like with Arsenal in Europe, the rush it brings back as a 41-year-old, and you go, this is it. I don't know if you've experienced that with
this. Like my kids see football, and it's like the form that it's in now. This is all they've ever known. Yeah. And I think what I would say in terms of like football and probably things in general, but definitely football. The more games you watch, the harder it is for you to be pleased, but the easier it is for you to be unhappy about certain things that you see. And you just got to be wary of like, am I going to sound like that grumpy old man shouting up at the flipping clouds like the people said it when we were playing?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like when we were playing, like flipping 2000s or whatever, early 2000s, there'd be people saying, "Oh, this Premier League, it's rubbish, innit?
Yeah.
These pitches, they're too nice these days." You know what I mean? Oh, they're having a water break. It's 35 degrees. Yeah, they hate it. They hate it.
Yeah, water
They're
break.
water breaks.
Damn
Back in my day, what's
damn the
this?
welfare.
He's having treatment on the sideline. He's stretching. This is ridiculous. 7 subs. Back in my day, it was 1 sub.
That was just a fair challenge in my
Exactly,
day.
yeah. What's
Never
wrong with
mind
that? His
Pedro
knee's
Mendes
fine.
getting decapitated.
My final point. I'm sorry, I apologise for this because this is the emotional side of things. There was a commentator for Sky who's Scouse who was talk. There was a game, and a player went down on the floor holding their head, but the other team was having a counter attack. This player that went down holding their head, I think it was the Italian for Villa from a couple of years ago. No, I've forgotten his name. He was a left-footed guy, attacker. He was on the floor.
Not Bundia.
No. Forget what his name is, but he left. He came from like Juve or something, but he's down holding his head, and there's now chance of a break for this other team. They're crossing into the opposition's half. Referee blows his whistle. And it's like, oh, for God's sake, you can't do that. He's faking it. He's faking it.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with him. And the commentator, the person who knows the laws of the game and understands this is a big moment, he says, why do you think you should stop it, Mr. Scouse person that's on TV every weekend? And giving him a chance to have a get out. He says, but you can just tell there's nothing wrong with him. And like, instead of saying, we need to figure out this law or rule to sense when the moment is right to stop things, he just said, obviously he's cheating to try and stop this team from doing whatever. It's a disgrace. So if he's lost his head and he's being paid, how about people at home watching their team? They're flipping, getting their pitchforks ready to go and do whatever. And even in regards to that law, what some people don't realise as well, that law is, it's a head injury or a serious injury.
Yeah.
That word in there adds even more to it because it would get stopped more. And again, the main comms was trying to like bail him out, and he was doubling and tripling down.
Help me out here, please. Help me out.
Are you
Come
sure
on.
that's what you mean? That's exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with him.
Should be executed.
Yeah, that's when I was like, yo, this is wild out here, man. Because people are going to think, hey, listen, I don't care if he's got brain damage. Listen, my team's about to score here.
Nedum, will you come back and chat to us again?
Listen, man, this seat's available. I'll happily be here, yeah.
Phenomenal. Nedum Onuoha, that was ridiculously good.
Good fun.
Really enjoyed that,
Good
mate.
fun.
Thank you so much. And you made
Pleasure.
a proper effort as well. You've come all the way from Manchester for
Listen,
this.
I'll do it again, man.
So we do appreciate it. And by the way, we're not on like a new set. We are in the Spotify studio. They've just got a brand new shiny set that we just moved into for day. We did the Gail Clichy episode here as well, but this is the second one. This isn't our natural home, is it? This is just a borrow for the day.
Borrowed set,
We hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you soon. Up the Fozcast.
Up the Fozcast. Thanks everybody for watching. We hope you enjoyed the latest episode of the Fozcast. Don't forget to give us a follow on Spotify. Up the Fozcast.